Hello and welcome to Pigeon Duiwe News. My name is Tatos Khun and today we're in Krugersdorp at the Lofts of the Painters family. And in a few moments we'll have an interview with them. We'll get to know about their performances throughout the years, their bloodlines and their race program. Stay tuned. Hello, the Painters family, and thanks for joining us on today's episode. And I'm also honored that you allowed us to come through and see how you raise your pigeons.
It's a pleasure having you here. It's an honor to have you here. We're very supportive of anything that can do the sport good. And we're very proud to host you only 2 weeks after my father and their grandfather, Dietary Painter, who's been a legend in the sport, passed away. So it's sad that he's not here today to also put his input, but we will honor his name and the legacy he's left us. There's very few pigeon families in terms of performance that could survive longer than 60 years and still keep winning.
Speaking about your late grandfather, how was he your mentor into the pigeons racing?
My brother and I grew up basically in the pigeon loft. So I've not had one day without pigeons, and the same with them. Yeah. Since they were born, they were part of the sport, and we've always made it a family sport, and it's so enjoyable if your family supports. I know of many fanciers that do not enjoy that, but for us it's absolutely a pleasure to spend time together at the pigeon loft. In
today's episode we're also remembering him, and what are the highlights that you remember him by?
There's quite a number, but I mean the one highlight that everybody and will always stay with us was the day that we won the Sun City $1 Million Pigeon Race. I think up to today only one of 4 South Africans, but only one of 3, which was an absolute honor and quite unexpected. To win a race in summer from 600 kilometers to a very hot part of the country was an achievement that I'll never forget. But that was with my father most definitely the highlight. In his own right, he was union champion and federation champion in most of the organizations he flew, albeit that in his later years he didn't live at the best place, but he still performed extremely well. But I think it's more the legacy of his pigeons that has made him so famous. I mean, most fanciers that have heard of the famous Tom Locke family have now realized that those pigeons are in essence actually based on the painter patries that he made famous. And they've performed everywhere in the country and even in other countries performed very well. For ourselves, winning the Sandpa gold medal, that was a big privilege, and also part of his legacy with a hen that carried his bloodlines.
Was that only your proudest moments as a family? I know you've won a couple of great achievements, as you're mentioning. And which year was the $1 million win?
2001 was the $1 million win. In our own right, we've been union champions 4 times, which is the record in our union, WRPA, equal record. And we've achieved everything that's, we've won the Bucky, we've won many cell races. The performance of our pigeon speaks for itself. It's wherever they've gone, they've performed. This year alone, I counted before when I heard you were coming. We've bred winners in 9 different lofts this season alone. Good pigeons, always come to the top. It's if we spoke about earlier today that success is twofold. You have to have the best genetics, firstly, but you also have to train them and look after them in the right way. Then you can achieve the top.
We have difference and diversity.
Yes.
There's birds that can fly on 9/11s between 9 and 11 hours. There's where the name comes from. And where the gold medal winners, Dad Blue Whip, that side of the family is a bit faster. Normally loves a 14 to a 1450 speed, and that's what you need to become a champion in union points and so forth.
Yeah, we have a favorite saying in that you have to have the versatility to be consistent enough to score in every race. You don't become union champion with your best race, you become union champion with your worst race. So if your worst race is still in the first 30 or 40 of your union, then you have a very good chance to become union champion.
So what's your objective going forward with maybe one loft, new developments coming?
In actual fact, we haven't been big participants in one loft races since my dad won the $1 million, but we made it one of our objectives last year that we want to find the right blend of our bloodlines that will perform well in the modern day pigeon loft, one loft races. And we've had success. In 2019 we won one of the training races at Pattaya, which was a fantastic performance for us. And the year before we actually had one of the ace pigeons right up to the final. Before the final it was the third ace pigeon. So this year we decided to focus on 3 one-loft races in South Africa, at Dinokeng, Dias, and at Central Provincial Loft, and the Bloemfontein Loft. And we're quite delighted that at Dinokeng and at Dias, although we didn't enter big numbers, we have one bird in the top 20 in the ace pigeon competition. And today on race 9 at Dias, we had 2 birds on the drop on the first drop, so we were 3rd and 9th, which was really enjoyable.
How do you put all the procedures into your racing team?
For you to be a champion, you must realize that if you're a very good pigeon fancier, a very good breeder, you probably breed 10 good ones for every 100 babies. So our view is that we breed a lot, but we keep as few as possible. So our selection process is probably the strictest that I know of. From a racing perspective, after the season, we only keep the birds that's performed in the top 1% at union level. So in birdage with more than 1,000 birds, that means that bird had to score in the first 10, more than once. We were fortunate last year to have, after the season was done, we had nearly 60 birds that achieved that. I think our record of having the top 7 best birds in this union will probably stand for quite some time to come.
Now that year we took the gold medal and a silver medal on the short distance.
Yeah, that was in 2019. Last year with COVID, obviously a truncated season, there wasn't Sandpa Medal Awards, but if there were, one of our birds would have won, we're pretty sure, again, a gold medal. But to fly at the top means that you always have to strive for better. The moment you start thinking that you've got the best is the day that you start going backwards. So every year we look for better birds and we try and select stricter. So this year we've made it our cutoff that a bird needs to fly in the top 7 of the union for it to survive until next year. And if you have an old bird team that consists of that quality of pigeons, you can be for sure that racing actually becomes quite easy. But you can only do it with the absolute top genetics, and that's what it's all about. You've got to have access to your own family, which makes it obviously very much easier. But every year, look for better. Look for your competitors, and never be shy to go and procure the best.
Those top results that you just told us about, does food and medication play a role in your loft?
Our system is based basically on 2 main components, and that is nutrition. In so far as we race our birds every week. Every bird goes to a race every week. So there's no bird here that sits at home on a Saturday morning. It either goes to a 300-kilometer sprint race or it goes to 500-600 kilometers every week, at least for 13 weeks. After that, yes, we do withdraw some of the young birds, but many of the old birds fly all 18 weeks in a row. And if your nutrition is right so that they can recover after a race like today, which is a nearly 8-hour race on 600 kilometers, the method of feeding is very important. But secondly, and probably as important, is conditioning of the crop. We've been quite open about it, that we try and condition the crop pH to below 5.5, which means that a lot of the normal sicknesses that you get with crop canker, salmonellosis, E. coli, all of those things that a lot of people have to treat for, we don't treat. So the birds are naturally healthy. The ones that can't take the way we race birds, which is every week, so the weaker ones fall out by themselves. So at the end of the year, those are the ones that didn't fly in the top 1% and couldn't do it more than once.
So you don't have this team, first team and second team? So
we've basically, we're in a fortunate position that we fly 5 races every Saturday. So we do have a first and a second and a third team, but the good performers in the third team then gets promoted to the second team, and from the second team into the first team. But albeit said that they are third team, if that third team in the competition where we enter them still fly in the top 2 or 3 in the union on the averages, it says a lot about the depth in the loft. So last year we were combined champions in the Gauteng West Combine, and in the PSWU Combine we ended second. And this year, we're about halfway through the season. We're again leading the points in our union, and in the PSWU Combine we're also in the top 3, and in the sprint series we're in the top 2. So to do that year after year says a lot about the quality of pigeon and the depth in the loft.
From the history, we know you've had a bloodline, pigeon family.
Yes.
That's actually local,
yes.
South African.
Yes.
Can you give us
yes,
history about that?
The Patry pigeon family came to South Africa in 1938, and it was actually quite an interesting story that Frans Patry was one of the champions in Antwerp in Belgium at that time, and he saw the clouds of war packing on the horizon, and he decided to move to South Africa. But just after he moved there, he went back to Belgium to fetch the birds, and he had access to the absolute best in Antwerp. In those days, the guys like Vincent Morien, Alphonse Engela, Van Engela, and those guys were in the same sort of category as Andre Roodhooft, Bart Gerings of today. So Patry was fortunate in that he could go and buy the best from those guys before he brought them here. Soon after that, the war broke out, the Second World War, and destroyed much of the gene pool that was in Belgium and Holland in those days. So much so that the very famous Dr. Pieter Weert called Patry the modern Noah, because he preserved that gene pool. He brought it to South Africa, where the Germans couldn't destroy it. And that gene pool has been, I don't think I'll exaggerate if I say, responsible for hundreds of thousands of winners in South Africa. And as far as I know, it's the only strain that is still distinguishable after 80 years. It's still called Patry. It hasn't got another name. It's still, and
the birds still look the same.
Genotypically, it still looks the same, and it's still flying at the top. I don't think many bloodlines can say that, and that makes it so easy to work with. So all we try and do every year is to bring in fresh blood that perform on the same type of races, and from a genotypical point of view, also looks the same. So if you look at modern painted Patrys and you compare it to the look of 60, 70 years ago, the Patrys of then, they still look the same. People come here and say, "Oh, that's how the old Patrys look," and they still look like that. The paper that you have in your hand there is regarding one of our cocks called Blue Whip, and I think without fear of contradiction, it must be the best stock cock in South Africa. You know, I don't know of any other stockcock that up to last year, in the 3 years of breeding, bred every single baby that we raised was a winner. He bred the Sandpa Gold Medal winner. His grandchild would have won the Sandpa Gold Medal last year. And yeah, he's been responsible for, amongst his children and grandchildren, for more than 40 wins in 3 years. So, absolute magic pigeon, and that's the 14th generation of batteries in the time that we've had them, since 1961 when my dad started. And they still perform like that, and we're very proud of that.
And what's your plan with this strain going forward?
Is to keep on improving it, yeah.
Improving, and never settle.
Yeah.
Never settle.
They must become better. They won the biggest one-off race in the world before, and our goal is that, yeah, we hopefully will get there very soon again. We know it's not a one-year project, but yeah, the finals of the King Central Provincial Loft and Dietary around the corner, and we're looking forward to seeing what our birds will do there.
Are you looking forward to get new strains?
Yeah, we do that every year. We've had great success with the introduction of Rubens, with Gabbies, Sablons, and even some of the local strains. You know, that's the magic of the Painter Patry strains. You can cross it with anything and get success. We hear it every day from guys that have procured some of our birds that it's the easiest strain to cross with. It's the most versatile. It can fly fast, they can fly 1700, or they can fly 1100, and that's what you want in South Africa. We spoke about it earlier. If you want to be a champion here, you have to be versatile. You must be good on the short distance, middle distance, and long distance. Yeah, so on the improvement of the strain, we obviously keep on looking for the top performers across the country every year. And we're not specifically hung up about pedigrees, although and I always give that advice to anybody that's buying pigeons. There's a bit of an art in reading pedigree. If you read a pedigree and you don't find amongst the first two generations, father and the father, mother, grandfather, grandmother, there's 6 pigeons there. If you don't find 4 winners or ace pigeons there, then I'm not interested. Because that tells you, yeah, you get these paper tigers where the good pigeon is 4 generations away, and then stock was bred, but those pigeons never raced. Then stock was bred again, pigeons never raced. I'm not interested in those. I'm interested in pigeons that perform now, every year. Every year, pigeon racing improves. We spoke earlier about 40 years ago, the average velocity was 1250. 40 years later, the average velocity is 1500. So every year, pigeons improve. So if you look to buy winners, buy recent winners, buy birds that perform now. And those are the birds that we're bringing in. And yeah, we've had great success in the last couple of years with some of the Belton strains, I must say. They've definitely improved our performance, specifically the Sablons. We bought her in from the $1 Million Pigeon Race in 2013 from Slovakia. And yeah, she's made a great impact in our loft.
Right, okay.
Yeah, we've got dual purpose, double union winner, combine winner, and in his first nest also bred 853, which, if it wasn't for COVID last year, would have been in the running for a gold medal on the short distances. Really versatile pigeon. Scored from the short races of 280 right up to he won the sales race from Stridenberg, I think 588 k's.
Here's ring face 7434. This is the gold medal winner's medal miss's mother. She bred a bunch of good ones. She comes out of our Paint New generation, and she's the top breeder so far.
Here's the famous chestnut hen. For those of you that know the Patry family well, she looks typically like the old Patrys. She's one of our top stock hens. She's produced think up to date 11 winners, and she also bred the ace bird in the Limpopo Union last year.
If you had to bring a change
Yes.
to the sport, and what changes would you bring in, especially here in South Africa?
Yeah, I want to see pigeon racing become more representative in terms of our demographics. It's one of my passions is to get guys in whether it's on the Cape Flats or Soweto or in Kagiso. One of my great friends that races with me races from Kagiso, and we have to do our bit to get those guys into the sport, because in 30 years from now, guys like us won't be here anymore, and the sport will be carried forward by young people, most definitely from previously disadvantaged groupings. And we have an open door policy, and everybody that's basically come here has gone away with good advice and good pigeons.
And speaking of, giving a chance to the disadvantaged community, do you think finance plays a huge role there? Racing pigeons now.
It's very expensive. I think from that point of view, there's a lot to be done still. There's some very good examples of what can be done on the Cape Flats. I'm thinking of what's been done in the SSPO organization with their junior program. That's something that can be learned from. And pigeon racing doesn't have to be expensive. Pigeon racing becomes expensive when youngsters start with inferior pigeons. So in other words, most youngsters start with pigeons given away by people that didn't race particularly well. But then they start with inferior genetics. And inferior genetics invariably means that those pigeons get sick. Then they have to medicate, and it becomes, a downward spiral. The idea would be to get them started with good genetics and a simple program that's based on nutrition and looking after the immune system. Then pigeon racing becomes cheap. It's not expensive. There's no need to pay 35 Rand a kilo for food. You can get along quite happily with 5 Rand 50, 8 Rand a kilo food. It's just how you give it.
What's I'd say an error that you've done that throughout the years that could have...
the one thing that I realized, that we as a family realized, was that we were feeding wrong. It's very important to understand where pigeon protein comes in. We've cut out a lot of protein towards the end of the week. As closer that we get to basketing day, we cut out on protein. Over the weekends, we give a lot of protein, but we give digestible protein, not in terms of peas and beans or any other legumes. We give pellets, which is easily digestible. You saw now that the birds came from the race, eight and a half hours on the wing. They had a quick drink and a eat, and they look like they didn't fly. And that's why, because the protein that they eat is so easily digestible. It's available immediately, and they recover immediately. So we cut out a lot of peas, and we focused on, protein-rich feeds over the weekends, early in the week, and we give that via pellets. Later in the week, we give our normal carbohydrates through maize and sorghum and the normal stuff people give.
All fanciers and anyone racing pigeons in the country, are they free to come to you for a program?
We're helping probably around about 100 fanciers countrywide, and I said to you earlier today that everybody that's come here for advice, I think, has shown improvement. We currently have people in the biggest organizations in the Cape hitting the points basically on our program, specifically people that are struggling. You know, we get, I'm not exaggerating if I say to you, we get between 30 and 50 phone calls a week for help, and I've never said no to anybody. You know, to build a sport, you've got to, I think the days of keeping secrets are long gone. That's hurt the sport. It's much better sharing your knowledge, and if somebody can beat you with your program, what does it say to you? Just get better pigeons.
Can you give an ultimate tip to viewers watching?
For any beginner to start right, don't buy stock pigeons. Go and get eggs, go and get babies from the champions around your vicinity. Most of the champions I know are quite willing to, at a very reasonable price, help a youngster with good young birds to race. You must remember that that's the shortcut to success. That guy has had his family of pigeons for years and years and years. He's done the sorting out. He knows his stock loft. So if he breeds for you, you're taking a shortcut. You can raise those pigeons immediately, and after a year or two, if those pigeons are performing, you can start your own stock loft. Or go back to him and say, Mr. Champion, now can you please sell me a stock bird out of those same pigeons? That's, I think, the best advice I can give. And then it is just to keep things simple. Success doesn't come out of a medicine bottle. It never does. The people that are flying on our program all use different medicines, but they use the same nutritional program and crop conditioning program. So we've had many weekends that we get feedback from 30, 40 guys that are using the program, and everyone gave a different antibiotic that week. So now the question is, how important are mutis or antibiotics? They're not. They might make a 3-4% difference, but the big thing is nutrition, crop conditioning, and how often you can race your birds. We spoke about that earlier as well, and that the modern racing pigeon can take racing every week. 200, 300, 400, 500, 600, 700 Ks every week for a good pigeon is nothing. They come home and they don't look like they've flown. And if you feed them right and you keep them healthy, it's quite achievable. And therefore you don't have to have many pigeons. You can fly a very small team. I know of people that we're helping in the Cape that fly with teams of 40 birds or less, and they fly the whole season with great success. Last year in the Federated Board we had 4 guys flying on our program winning 6 board races, and those are races with more than 8,000 birds. At the moment, one of our fancier friends are hitting the points in the WCPTA, also on the program. And it's simple. There's no magic to it. In wrapping it up, our advice is open for everybody. The mistake more of the experienced guys make is they take things that make sense from the program and they try to blend that with their old way of doing things. That doesn't work. Extraordinary results takes extraordinary measures. So if you look at the program, and maybe we should do another session somewhere in the future where we just talk about the program. I've had my friend Henry van Rooyen from H3 Lofts here before, just talking about that, and the spin-off of that interview has been incredible. You know, I think everybody that's taken to heart what was said there has shown great improvement, and I think it's maybe a good idea to spend half an hour just talking about that, but we can do that another time.
Do you have closing remarks?
Yeah, in closing, for the champions out there, the only advice I can give is stay humble and always remember that you're winning at somebody else's cost. So be generous with your help, and for the guys that are battling, don't be afraid to ask, and keep going. The sport needs every fancier in South Africa to keep going, and we all have the responsibility to look after each other. The sport is showing some signs of growth, which is fantastic news. We need to help the guys that are starting out as champions, and we need those guys that are starting out to persevere. Pigeon racing isn't easy. It's hard work. It's everyday work, and it goes with a lot of disappointment. And you've got to just stick at it, because eventually you will be a champion.
There you have it from the Painters family, and thanks a lot for watching. Don't forget to like, share and subscribe to our YouTube channel. My name is Tatas Khone, and this is Pigeon Duiwe News.